back to the Sherwood Urban Farm. Today's video, we're finally getting to a tour of the tall raised beds and some of the in-ground beds that I've got in the backyard. It has been a very, very hot and very, very dry December. So I'm just pleased with whatever is growing in the garden right now. But enough talking about that. Let's get to the garden tour. We'll start here with the tall raised bed in the middle, the square one. This one is 1.5 by 1.5, and these are 700 high. I wouldn't do it again this high, but it works well actually because I have got the rabbits and the ducks which sort of free range around, so it keeps them out of the garden. But it does take a lot of soil and compost to fill these. And then if it's compost, then they often lose their height and you farming down there. But now that I've added soil in here, it's working a treat. I must say the kind of soil also makes a difference. So if I just use our native soil, it's very, very sandy and it is almost like hydrophobic. But what I've done now is from my brother's silk trap. His water goes into his dam from the rain. Well, it's from the road, which is just a gravel road. So this has got a certain amount of clay in the silt. So it's sort of sand and clay, but it works so well because it seems to hold the moisture a lot better than if it was just sort of like the kind of native sand that we've got here. I think because this is a coastal region, maybe centuries and centuries ago, this would have been underwater at some point, this area. And that's why the whole of Port Elizabeth is just really, really sandy. So it's very difficult to sort of hydrate that kind of soil. But this kind of clay business, I mean, it's not a lot of clay. It's just very fine particles, like an aggregate without the little stones in it, which you would get on a normal gravel road. Anyways, so I have got my kale, which is still from winter, and they're actually doing great. The middle one got aphids, so I just pulled all the leaves off and just left the middle new leaf coming out and sprayed it with water. I just jetted them off with the water. There it is. It's busy coming back. But here are those for kale. These are sweet corn. It's just so interesting to me. I think maybe it's the prevailing wind, which comes from this side. So those ones are shorter than these ones. It's just so strange. But I do think it could be the prevailing wind. They are not the bantam sweet corn. I'll show you the bantam sweet corn over there. These are just like regular sweet corn. Then I have got cucumbers. Now, all the years I've been growing cucumbers in these tall raised beds, I always had it trellising around the sides of the bed. Like I just put some twine across and then I just sort of wind it around. But this year I felt to do it this way and it's working a treat. The only thing is that the cucumbers, if they are lying on the soil, then they'll yellow on the bottom. So then I kind of lift them up and prop them up on the leaves and that seems to cure that sort of yellowing on the one side. Almost like what a watermelon would do. You know, it's all green and white on the top, which receives the sun, but that which is touching the soil, it's sort of yellow. Not that it affects the taste of it. I mean, and this is Ashley cucumber, which I grow every year. I just peel it anyways, because Ashley has got a little bit of a leathery kind of skin around it, but so sweet and so nice. And then what else have we got in here? Actually, that's it. And then I've got some flowers. I love to put these are it's a flower mix. So I thought I would put it in a seed tray and then I just sort of emptied the packet, not thinking that they would all germinate, and they did. But then I killed most of them, shame, poor things. But yeah, so I've put in a couple of flowers for the pollinators and just to make it look pretty. Now this L-shaped bed has been a bit of a disappointment. I planted potatoes in it, and because I really thought this summer I'm going to just grow what we eat. We do eat eggplant, aubergines, but not that much. And so I didn't really bother with them this year. I've got one which overwintered. It's not doing well. But I didn't realize how dry this bed was getting. See, I've run out of water in the tanks because we haven't had proper rain for over a month now. So unfortunately, the drip tape is not operating at the moment. It's all good and well. The drip works amazing if you have water, but it does. I mean, yeah, I just don't have water in the tanks right now. So I'm using the rinsing water from when I'm rinsing vegetables, or if I'm rinsing some dishes that I've washed. Then I'll use that, or even when we're waiting for the hot water to come through, then I'll use that water to water the plants. And occasionally I'll use some municipal water. I try not to, it just gets very expensive then. So I didn't realize how dry this bed was getting, because I couldn't understand why my potatoes weren't coming up, and it was because this bed was just that dry. And so in the meantime, I've put down a thick layer of leaf mold. I don't know, it's just leaves, and it works a treat. It works better actually. I've liked the idea of wood chips, but I mean, you have to buy it in, and it's expensive in a way. Not that, I mean, probably not that expensive. For 5 cubes it's 500 rand, but then I've got to wheelbarrow it and it's in the front. Anyway, that's a story. So I got leaves, and the leaves really work well. So it's a thick layer of leaves over here, so that has helped a lot in this bed. So I've got the potatoes. My daughter planted all of these, what are these things called? Hollyhocks. So she's planted all the hollyhocks. Just a moment, I see a shield bug. Bother, it got away. I always try and get them. They do such damage in the garden. Anyways, so I have an overwintered pepper. I think it's a yellow pepper, and it's got 2 little peppers on it. I'm trying to keep it up. No, it's already gotten sunburn on the one. The other one hasn't. But what I've noticed, and I'll show you in the other bed, they don't like direct sun. If you can get them under a shade net, or even like the ones in that bed, they are in between the sweet corn. It makes the world's difference. The ones that I've got there compared to the ones that I've got in the in-ground, it's incredible. Well, I've got those now under the shade cloth, which has made a huge difference. It just, the fruit will burn on the direct sun, and we've had so many hot days. It's been just so hot. These last few days have been overcast, so I hope we're not going to get a blight event, but I've just found that the summer sun I suppose in most hot countries, it's just so harsh now. Anyway, so I've got a couple of potatoes growing here. They seem to be doing all right. And then there's another hollyhock here. And then I have the granadellas growing around the beds, just to make them look prettier and to keep the beds cooler from this, the metal. Although I found, that's what somebody once commented, but actually I found that it reflects the heat away. Anyways, but in that reflection, especially that bed, if you're in the house and then the sun in the autumn and winter and spring, oh my hat, it reflects into the house that you can't look out the sliding door because of the reflection. So that was actually the main reason for planting the granadella. But I've got a number of granadella fruit growing around, they flowering and growing. So I'm hoping that they will actually produce this year, or actually that we can actually eat them, because last year I got the granadellas. They grew beautiful. They're the yellow ones. I don't know if they're granadella or passion fruit. I think in South Africa we call them guavadillas. Anyways, they would fall off, I suppose, like they should, or they would sort of go yellow. And then once you're waiting for them to sort of shrivel up, they go brown. And that's it, and you can't eat them. So to throw them away. And you don't think you're going to throw them in the compost. I made that mistake once. Then you just get granadellas everywhere. There was like a carpet of granadellas the one season. Anyway, so that's the story about the granadellas. Let's move on to onto that next L-shaped bed. Now, last year, this bed, it was shocking. I had planted baby marrow, zucchini, and they grew these massive leaves, and they looked amazing. And I probably got one zucchini. They looked great. They filled this whole bed, and they just didn't fruit. So I was thinking maybe the trees above here providing too much shade, and that's why they didn't grow very well. Then I decided I am going to plant sweet potatoes in this bed because they just leaves anyways and it doesn't really matter. Well, you can see they are doing so well. What I did was I've always seemed to have sweet potatoes in the garden because it seems to me if you've planted sweet potatoes once, you're going to have sweet potatoes forever. But then I watched the Living Seeds video on sweet potatoes, and so I took some slips from the ones that were growing in the volunteers that just come up, and I rooted them in water, and then I planted them. This is just that sort of pinkish, purplish one with the white skin inside, or the white flesh. So, I mean, it's not the sweetest one, but it's fine. It grows really well. And so here it is, and they are just doing so well. So I'm really hoping to get a decent harvest. What I find when you have the volunteers is that they'll come up here, there, and everywhere, but they don't produce that many tubers, and so because they look like you've got a lot, but then they spaced so far apart because they're just coming up randomly, and so you see all the leaves, but once you've taken all the leaves away and you harvest, then you're like, oh, it's not as many as you thought, but it took up the whole bed. So here I was able to, every 30 centimeters, I've now planted a slip. And then what I've done, well, previously what I found is then right underneath that, you'll find that the whole thing sort of just fills out with a whole lot of sweet potatoes. This is the golden bantam sweet corn. And I see it's tasseled, and there's no, oh wait, there's a few over there, 1, 2, 3. Not going to get many sweet corn here. That is disappointing. I'm not sure why. I don't know why it's done that. I mean, here's all the pollen on the leaves, but then there's nothing happening. There's no, so I don't know how it's going to pollinate the ears, because there aren't any ears if the tassels are going to be done already. And I mean, there's this tiny little totsy thing and it's already tasseling. So I'm not sure what's gone wrong here. I don't know if it's because it was too hot. Maybe there wasn't enough water. I mean, I've been trying to keep the water going, and this has also got the leaf mulch. But whenever I look, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It looks to me like there's enough water. But in between, I have got I think this is red peppers, and they are doing so well. So even if I don't get anything here, I've still got some in the freezer from the ones that I grew in the beginning of, I think it was in spring. I planted them, and I showed them in the last video. So I got those in the freezer, so we've got some sweet corn. It's fine. Hopefully these ones will do better, and they will give proper sized sweet corn, because I mean, bantam is bantam, you know, the name self-explanatory there. I've got some petunias in here, and then I've got some zinnias. And then this was the first hollyhock to have flowered, so you can see it's done a lot of buds which are spent already, a lot of flowers, but it's just prolific. It's just flowers and flowers. Excuse the rooster, little tiny bantam guy. He's waiting for his little wifey to come. Anyways, and then I have also got two. Oh, they're so tiny. I don't even think it's worth mentioning, but anyways, it's two sweet melon plants in here, but I don't think we're getting sweet melons this year. I have got in that bag, I'll show you now, maybe from that one, but they just failure to launch. They just never got going. So maybe I took too long to plant them from the greenhouse. Maybe that's the problem, but who knows? You know, we try. Some years something works amazingly and the next year doesn't at all. So who knows? So this looks terrible, right? Anyways, these are my potatoes, and and I see the other ones are doing it as well. They started to brown on the growth tips. and then they just started to die back. And there is some more growth coming along the lower parts of the stem, but I'm just starting to think I'm just gonna pull it out. In fact, let's have a look. Let's just see how much is in here anyways. Let's have a look. See. No, that looks terrible. Okay.
Nothing. Wow, that's disappointing. I mean, it's beautiful and moist down there.
You know, I tell you, farming is not for sissies. Let's see.
Nothing. Wow. Alright. Let's see what we got here. Wow. Okay. Yo. I must say those are just potatoes that had sprouted in the kitchen.
I'll do a chop and drop here.
Maybe there will be more here.
Sure. You would have thought at least a few baby potatoes.
Just this.
Oh, that's sad, eh?
Ew. Absolutely nothing. A stone. Yo, that's disappointing. I mean, I had the drip going for a long time before the tanks ran dry. And you would have thought at least a few baby potatoes. Yo, not a single potato. Oh. Oh well. Unless it's further down, could it be? But they don't normally.
Here you can see that one looks fine, but here it starts. So they just never even got to making any potatoes. I mean, they were looking grand at one point, but obviously that wasn't enough. It's very disappointing, that's all I can say. So this bed looks terrible right now because I'm just letting this all die back. I had the most amazing harvest from this bed. These are emerald tomatoes, and they are great for making tomato sauce, like a pasta sauce. I'm just letting it die back now, but I've got really bags and bags of tomatoes from here and from the ones in the garden. I've left it now open because I had it covered with the old net curtaining to prevent the birds, the mouse birds, from getting to the fruit. But now I don't really care. They can have whatever. Shame, I think they're also hungry. You can see they've been having a go at this one, but that's fine. I'm going to harvest the last of them, and then I will top it up with compost, put another thick layer of mulch, and then I might actually just grow some more potatoes in here. You can see how dry it is. The Felicia, it's a tough little bush that gives the most beautiful flowers, but you can see the little leaves they're just not doing well, so it's not flowering at the moment. This is a basil, like a bush basil. It's unusual. I don't know if there's a deficiency in the soil here or something, but it's like a variegated basil now. And then this is a Cape gooseberry, and this is volunteers that have come up. I had it last year, then I cut it back down, and then this here I covered it with what did I cover it with? With net curtaining, old net curtaining. And I've got so many gooseberries because normally the mouse birds get them before I do. So now whatever's left, there they are, beautiful. Whatever's left they can have. I'll put them all in the freezer. Oh no, that one's tart. Woo! Anyway, it wasn't ready. I'm going to let the mouse birds have this. And then I'm going to make a sweet chili sauce with the gooseberries that I have frozen. I've probably got about 1 kilogram from one bush. I think that's fine. So yeah, there's my navel orange. We have so far gotten one orange from it, and it wasn't great. Anyways, I think I harvested it too late. They said either it's late, harvested too late, or it is not enough water. Very likely either of those two. But I mean, we left that thing on, and we left it on. Eventually, we picked it. It just the little top part hadn't gone orange yet, so I kept waiting for it to go completely orange. But then the cells were sort of dry in some patches. But I mean, it was sweet. It was nice, except for that there was, like sort of dry cells. And then underneath, I've got more potatoes, and the same thing's happening here. They're getting that sort of a wilt on the tips, but really these are just from, I haven't bought this. These are not bought seed potatoes. And there is a difference when you buy sweet potatoes, but it's a bit of a gamble when you're using the ones from the kitchen that have just sort of shooted out. Sometimes they come in with diseases, but for 20 seed potatoes at 140 Rand, I'm taking my chances because I have had amazing harvests in the kitchen garden. In the wooden box there is potatoes in there, and they've actually made little berries now, and I'm waiting for them to die back completely, and then I'll harvest those. But I mean, those ones are from the kitchen. Sometimes if the big potatoes have started to send out their shoots, chits is the official word, then I'll cut that piece off. I'll still use the rest of the potato and then just let it dry, and then I'll plant those. And here they are. So I'm not sure how the harvest is going to be of these. It might be the same as that other in-ground bed, which will be pretty disappointing. But there it is what it is. You take a chance. At least we are not trying to grow our food to the point that I can't go to the shop and this is just all I'm eating, because that would be very dismal. If I was just surviving off of the vegetable garden, we would be eating kale. That's mainly what we'd be eating. And cucumbers at the moment. Kale and cucumbers and cherry tomatoes. Well, cocktail tomatoes. Those are doing so well. And then over here, I have got another grenadilla, which I have trellised over. Finally, the mouse birds have left the leaves alone, because as the poor thing would get going, then the mouse birds would go at the leaves. But they seem to be off doing other things right now, so it is starting to cover over the arch, and I think that's going to look just amazing. Then this is the last bed. It's an L-shaped bed. I've got 2 hollyhocks, the most beautiful color in this one, and what would that be, like a burgundy, and then this beautiful white one, and they're beautiful. I love it. They add height to the garden, and when you're walking in between the beds with the sweet corn and the hollyhocks, you're just sort of like in a little jungle. What is in this bed is, besides the hollyhocks, now every year for about 2 or 3 years I have grown butternut, and it's been enormously successful in this bed. Last year not as much. I still got quite a few, but smaller ones. So I thought, okay, let me just chop it up a bit and let's do the cucumbers in here. Now what I'm finding is that this bed seems to dry out so quickly, and the leaves of the cucumbers always looking wilted, even after I've watered. So then I put this structure with some shade netting. I thought maybe it's getting too much sun, because this bed will get sun right the whole morning until late afternoon. Actually, then you'll get a little bit of shade coming over. So I thought, okay, let me do that. Sometimes I even take old net curtaining and I put it on top of this to provide even more shade for it. But today we've got a nice overcast day. And the cucumber, I mean, it's given us a number of cucumbers, but the leaves always look like they're drooping. They always look wilted. So I'm not exactly sure. Is it just the water? Is it drying out? Is there actually something wrong with the plant? But it's producing cucumbers, so I'm confused. And then there is one sweet melon plant, which is looking, it looks good. It looks much better than the other failure to launch ones. So maybe I'll get one one sweet melon from here. I haven't had great success with melons. Sometimes the one year I showed a video of us going to go and harvest it, and then as we were about to pick it, the whole thing just falls. It's beautiful like this. It just falls and it rotted. The melon, those flies, those pumpkin flies, they'd gotten it, which is interesting because as yet we haven't had any pumpkin flies. So that is fascinating because they will go at the cucumbers as well. Anyways, so at least I'm getting cucumbers, and we just love cucumbers from the garden. So that is the tour of the back garden, and I really hope you enjoyed it. And maybe you learned something by some of the mistakes that I've made, or some of the potato failures that I've got, that you don't feel like if your potatoes haven't come out or whatever. It happens. It's just what it is. It's really tough. I've got such respect for farmers. It's not easy to be a farmer if you're just thinking we're growing here in our backyards and small scale. And they've just got so much invested. It's their livelihood. So one has to really have so much respect for farmers. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. And I hope that you have a fantastic day further. And I'll see you in the next video.